The day Edison left, I stood in our kitchen holding the mug he'd given me for our 10th anniversary, debating whether to smash it against the wall or pack it away with the rest of my shattered life. My name is Thea, and this is the story of how I turned betrayal into my greatest triumph. "You can't be serious," I said, watching him stuff designer shirts into a leather weekend bag. 10 years of marriage, and you're walking away for someone you've known for 3 months? Edison didn't even look up. "Thea, we both know this isn't working anymore. Savannah understands my ambitions. She sees the bigger picture." "The bigger picture?" I laughed, but it came out more like a sob. "You mean her trust fund?" He finally met my eyes. "Don't be bitter. It doesn't suit you." "What suits me then, Edison? Silence? Should I just smile and wave while you destroy everything we built together?" The morning sun streamed through our bedroom window, highlighting the empty spaces where his things used to be. Photos removed from walls, dresser drawers hanging open, the walk-in closet half empty, like a mouth missing teeth. "I never meant to hurt you," he said, zipping up his bag. "Funny how people always say that after doing exactly what they knew would hurt someone the most." My phone buzzed. "Harper." "Girl, I'm outside. Just say the word, and I'll come up there and help you throw his stuff out the window." "I'm fine," I texted back, even though I was anything but. Edison checked his watch, the Rolex I'd helped him pick out last Christmas. "Savannah's waiting. I'll have my lawyer contact you about the divorce papers." "Of course she is." I followed him to the door. "Does she know about the gambling debts? Or did you conveniently forget to mention those?" He stiffened. "That's none of her business." "Yet somehow it was my business when I had to bail you out last year." "I paid you back." "Not everything, Edison. Not even close." He reached for the door handle, then paused. "You'll be fine, Thea. You're strong. Always were. Maybe too strong." "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means sometimes a man needs to feel needed. Savannah, she makes me feel that way." I stepped closer, my voice dropping to a whisper. "And how long until she realizes you're not the successful businessman you pretend to be? How long until the charm wears off and she sees what I've known for years, that you're just a man running from his own mediocrity?" His jaw clenched. For a moment, I thought he might argue, but instead, he opened the door and walked out without another word. I waited until I heard the elevator ding before sliding down against the wall, the tears finally coming. Harper found me there 10 minutes later, still clutching that stupid anniversary mug. "Oh, honey," she said, sitting beside me. "Let it out." "I gave him everything," I sobbed. "My time, my money, my dreams. I put my writing career on hold to support his ventures. And for what?" Harper wrapped an arm around me. "For a lesson. A painful one, but a lesson nonetheless." "What lesson?" "That you're worth more than being someone's backup plan. That it's time to focus on your dreams for a change." I wiped my eyes, looking at the manuscript pages scattered across my desk in the corner. My unfinished novel, gathering dust while I'd played supportive wife to a man who'd never truly supported me. "You know what the worst part is?" I said, standing up. "He thinks I'm going to fall apart without him. They both probably think that." Harper stood too, a fierce look in her eyes. "Then prove them wrong." I walked to my desk and picked up the manuscript, feeling its weight in my hands. "Oh, I will. But not just for revenge. I'm done living in his shadow." "That's my girl. What's the first step?" I grabbed my laptop and opened a new document. "I'm going to write a story, but not just any story. I'm going to write our story with a twist they'll never see coming." Harper grinned. "Now that sounds like a bestseller in the making." Looking at the blank page, I felt something shift inside me. The pain was still there, but now it had purpose. Edison thought he was walking away with everything, but he'd left behind the one thing that would ultimately be his undoing: my voice. I began to type, the words flowing easier than they ever had before. The day he left, I realized that some love stories aren't about love at all. Sometimes they're about power, and sometimes, just sometimes, they're about revenge. 3 months after Edison left, I sat across from Milo in his corner office at Summit Publishing, watching him read the first chapters of my manuscript. Each time he turned a page, my heart skipped a beat. "Well?" I asked when he finally looked up. He removed his reading glasses and leaned back in his chair. "This is raw, powerful, nothing like the romance novels you used to pitch me." "Is that a good thing?" "It's a very good thing, Thea." He tapped the manuscript. "This has teeth. The protagonist's journey from betrayal to self-discovery. It's compelling, personal even." I shifted in my seat. Maybe a little too personal? That's exactly why it works. Milo stood and walked to his window overlooking Manhattan. "Readers want authenticity. They want to feel something real. So you'll publish it?" He turned, a smile playing at his lips. "Better. I want to fast-track it. This could be huge with the right marketing." My phone buzzed. Harper checking in. I'd barely pressed ignore when Milo's assistant knocked and entered. "Your next appointment is here," she said. "Give me 5 minutes," Milo replied, then faced me again. "There's just one thing. The ending feels unfinished." "I'm still working on it," I admitted. "I know where I want it to go, but I'm not quite there yet." "Take your time. Sometimes the best endings reveal themselves when we least expect them." He walked me to the door. "Oh, and Thea? You're coming to the writer's retreat next weekend, right?" "I wasn't invited." "You are now. You'll meet some incredible authors there, including Athena Hughes. I think you two would hit it off." That evening, I met Harper at our favorite wine bar to celebrate. She raised her glass as I told her about the meeting. "To karma finally working in your favor," she toasted. "It's not about karma," I said, though I couldn't help smiling. "It's about taking control of my own story." "Speaking of stories," Harper leaned forward. "Have you heard about Edison and his trophy wife?" I took a long sip of wine. "I try not to keep tabs on them." "Well, maybe you should. Word is, they're having problems. Apparently, Savannah's family isn't too happy about his financial situation." "Harper, I know. You're above all that. But admit it. It feels a little good knowing their perfect life isn't so perfect." Before I could respond, a familiar voice called out, "Thea, is that you?" I turned to see Connor Douglas, looking as successful as ever in his tailored suit. We'd met at several of Edison's business functions years ago, but hadn't spoken since the divorce. "Mind if I join you ladies for a minute?" he asked. Harper kicked out a chair. "Please do. We're celebrating." "Oh, what's the occasion?" "Thea just landed a book deal. A big one." Connor's eyes lit up. "Finally! I always knew you were the talented one in that marriage. No offense. None taken," I laughed. "What brings you here?" "Meeting with investors across the street, but this is better." He flagged down a server. "Another round on me. We need to properly celebrate." As the evening wore on, I found myself relaxing more than I had in months. Connor asked thoughtful questions about my book, and actually listened to the answers. When he finally had to leave, he handed me his business card. "Ah, I know some people in publishing marketing," he said. "Let me know if you ever want to discuss promotion strategies." After he left, Harper gave me a knowing look. Well. "Stop it. He's just being friendly." "Friendly is saying hello. That man stayed for 2 hours talking about your book." I tucked his card into my purse. "Maybe he just appreciates good literature. Maybe he appreciates more than that." Harper's expression turned serious. "You know it's okay to move on, right? Edison doesn't own your future." "I know." I stared into my wine glass. "But right now, I need to focus on finishing this book. The ending has to be perfect." "Any ideas yet?" I thought about Milo's words about endings revealing themselves. "Actually, yes. But I'll need your help with something at the book launch." "I'm in. Whatever you need. Don't agree so quickly. What I have in mind, it's either going to be brilliant or completely backfire." Harper reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Either way, I've got your back. Now tell me everything." As I outlined my plan, I felt a familiar rush of excitement. The same feeling I got when writing a particularly good scene. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying someone else's happiness. Sometimes it's about reclaiming your own and making sure they have a front row seat to watch it happen. And now, debuting at number 5 on the New York Times bestseller list, Milo's voice boomed through the speakerphone as I paced my living room. Before he could finish, I screamed, "Number 5? Are you serious?" "As a heart attack," he laughed. "Congratulations, Thea. You're officially a best-selling author." Harper, who'd been perched on my couch, jumped up and hugged me. I told you it would be huge." After ending the call, I collapsed onto the couch, still dazed. My phone kept buzzing with notifications, congratulatory messages, interview requests, and social media mentions. "This calls for champagne," Harper declared, heading to my kitchen. "The expensive stuff you've been saving." "It doesn't feel real," I said, scrolling through the messages. 6 months ago, I was just Edison's ex-wife. Now you're Thea, best-selling author. Harper returned with 2 glasses. "And speaking of Edison, have you seen the reviews?" I grabbed my laptop. The top review on Amazon read, "A searing exploration of betrayal and redemption." The author's portrayal of Marcus, the self-serving husband, feels so authentic, you'll swear she's writing from experience. "They have no idea," I laughed. "Oh, but they will," Harper winked. "Eventually." My phone buzzed again. Connor this time. "Free for lunch tomorrow? Want to discuss some marketing ideas for the book?" Harper read the text over my shoulder. "Third lunch meeting this month. Still just discussing marketing?" "Yes, actually. He's been incredibly helpful with publicity. And incredibly interested in spending time with you." Before I could protest, my doorbell rang. A delivery man stood there with an enormous bouquet of roses. "Congratulations on the bestseller list," the card read. "Looking forward to lunch tomorrow." "Connor." Harper raised her eyebrows. "Just business, huh?" Later that week, I met Athena for coffee. We'd grown close since the writer's retreat, and she'd become something of a mentor. "The success is wonderful," she said, stirring her latte. "But how are you handling everything else?" "You mean the Edison situation?" She nodded. "Success is the best revenge, they say. But revenge can be exhausting." "I'm not," I started, then sighed. "Okay, maybe part of me enjoys knowing he'll see my name on that bestseller list." "Of course you do. You're human." She leaned forward. "But don't let it consume you. I've seen too many writers get stuck in their pain, unable to move forward." "Is that why you're concerned about my launch party plan?" "I just want to make sure you've thought it through. Public humiliation has a way of backfiring." "It's not about humiliation," I insisted. "It's about truth, about taking back my narrative." Athena's expression softened. "Then make sure that's what comes across. Speaking of which, how's the final chapter coming along?" "Almost done. I'm meeting Connor for lunch to discuss the ending." "Connor?" She smiled knowingly. "The businessman who's been helping with marketing." "Not you too. Harper's already planning our wedding. I'm just saying, it's nice to see you opening up again." "Speaking of which," she pulled out her phone and showed me a recent social media post. It was a photo of Edison and Savannah at a charity gala, but their smiles looked strained. The caption mentioned trouble in paradise. "I don't want to know," I said, pushing the phone away. "Yes, you do, and that's okay. But remember, the best characters don't waste time plotting revenge. They're too busy building something better." At lunch with Connor the next day, I couldn't stop thinking about Athena's words. We sat at our usual corner table, marketing materials spread between us. "These numbers are incredible," he said, reviewing the sales reports. "Have you thought about doing a book tour?" "Milo's working on it. But first, the launch party." Connor set down the papers. "About that, are you sure about inviting Edison?" "How did you—" "Harper might have mentioned it. She's worried about you." I pushed my salad around my plate. "I know what I'm doing." "I'm sure you do. But as someone who cares about you—" He reached across the table and took my hand. Just be careful. The warmth of his touch sent a flutter through my stomach. I thought we were keeping this professional. Is that what you want? Before I could answer, my phone chimed with an email notification. My heart stopped when I saw the sender. Edison Foster. Thea, it read. We need to talk. It's important. Please. I showed Connor the email. His jaw tightened. What are you going to do? I thought about the launch party, about my carefully laid plans, about the ending I'd been crafting. I'm going to finish what I started. But as I said it, I wondered if I was really ready for what that meant. I chose the same coffee shop where Edison had first told me about Savannah for our meeting. Petty? Maybe. But if he wanted to talk, we'd do it on my terms. He arrived 15 minutes late, looking nothing like the polished businessman who'd left me a year ago. His designer suit was wrinkled, his eyes shadowed with exhaustion. You look terrible, I said as he sat down. Thanks for meeting me. He attempted a smile that didn't reach his eyes. I've been reading your book. And? It's revealing. Marcus seems familiar. Any resemblance to real persons is purely coincidental. I quoted the disclaimer from my book's copyright page. What do you want, Edison? He ran a hand through his unkempt hair. Savannah left me. I'm sorry to hear that. I wasn't. She found out about the gambling, the debts, everything. He leaned forward. I need your help, Thea. I laughed, sharp and bitter. You can't be serious. I know I have no right to ask, but you're the only one who really knows me, who understands. Understands what? How it feels to be betrayed? To have everything you believed in turn out to be a lie? I made mistakes, horrible mistakes. His voice cracked. But I'm trying to make things right. The casino's threatening to go public with my debts. If that happens, I'll lose everything. Like I lost everything? You didn't lose everything. Look at you, best-selling author, successful, respected. No thanks to you. A waitress approached. Edison ordered coffee with trembling hands. How much? I asked after she left. 200,000. I nearly choked on my tea. Are you out of your mind? I can pay you back. I just need time to… Like you paid me back last time? I'm not your personal bank anymore, Edison. He reached across the table, trying to take my hand. I pulled away. Please, Thea, I know I don't deserve your help, but… You're right, you don't. I stood up, gathering my things. Then I paused, an idea forming. Actually, there might be one way I can help. Hope flickered in his eyes. Anything. Come to my book launch party next week, as my special guest. Your launch party? I'm doing a reading, something new, not from the published book. I think you'll find it interesting. And if I come, you'll help with the money? I smiled, channeling the same false warmth he'd once used on me. Let's just say it could be very beneficial for both of us. Later that evening, I met Harper at her apartment, pacing as I told her about the meeting. He fell for it? She asked, pouring wine. Completely. He's desperate enough to believe anything. And you're sure about this? Once you do this, there's no going back. My phone buzzed. Connor calling. I ignored it. Still avoiding him? Harper asked. I need to focus. I can't have any distractions right now. He's worried about you. We all are. She sat beside me on the couch. Revenge might feel good in the moment, but this isn't just about revenge. I pulled out my laptop, opening the document containing my new pages. Listen to this. I read her the passage I planned to share at the launch. A devastating exposé of a man's descent into addiction and deceit, thinly veiled as fiction, but laden with details only Edison would recognize. Damn, Harper whispered when I finished. That's brutal. It's truth, his truth, the one he's been hiding from everyone. And you're really going to read this in front of all those people? Industry professionals? His colleagues? Why not? He didn't care about humiliating me when he left. Why should I protect him? My phone buzzed again. Connor's third call of the day. Because you're better than that, Harper said softly. And because I think you're using this revenge plot to avoid dealing with other feelings. What other feelings? She nodded at my still buzzing phone. The ones you're developing for someone else. Someone who actually deserves your attention. I silenced the phone. I can't think about that right now. The launch is in 6 days. Everything has to be perfect. And after? What then? I stared at the manuscript pages, at the words that would destroy what remained of Edison's reputation. Then I'll be free. But as I said it, I wondered who I was really trying to free myself from. Edison, or the angry, hurt woman I'd become since he left. Your choice, Harper said, raising her glass. Just remember, sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even, it's getting happy. I touched my glass to hers, but didn't drink. In 6 days, I'd have my moment of triumph. I just had to ignore the growing voice inside that questioned whether triumph and revenge were really the same thing. You're making a mistake, Athena said, watching me rehearse my reading in the empty bookstore after hours. This isn't you. How would you know? I snapped, then immediately regretted it. I'm sorry, I'm just nervous or guilty. I set down the manuscript pages. The bookstore's dim evening lighting cast long shadows across the rows of chairs we'd arranged for tomorrow's launch. Both, I admitted. But I can't back out now. My phone lit up with another text from Connor. Please call me, we need to talk. Athena noticed. Still avoiding him? I'm not avoiding, I'm focusing. On destroying your ex-husband instead of building something new? She picked up my manuscript. May I? I nodded, and she began reading aloud. The man who stood before me was a hollow shell of deception, each lie another card in his house of addiction. I watched him crumble, knowing my words would be the final breath that scattered his carefully constructed facade. Stop, I whispered. Why? Isn't this what you want everyone to hear tomorrow? It's the truth. No, she said, setting down the pages. It's pain masquerading as truth. There's a difference. The bookstore's door chimed. Harper walked in, carrying coffee and a concerned expression. How's the rehearsal going? It's not, Athena answered. She's too good a writer to go through with this. Harper handed me a coffee. What do you mean? I mean, Athena said, that real writers don't use their gift to destroy. They use it to illuminate, to heal, to transform. Edison deserves, I started. What anyone deserves isn't your responsibility, Harper cut in. But what you deserve is. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Edison. Looking forward to tomorrow. Thank you for giving me a chance. The message made my stomach turn. He thinks I'm going to help him, that this is some kind of reconciliation. And that doesn't bother you? Athena asked. Of course it bothers me. Everything about this bothers me. I paced between the chairs. But you didn't see him at that coffee shop. So smug, thinking he could just walk back into my life and ask for money like nothing happened. So this is about money? Harper asked. No, it's about control, Athena finished. But control and power aren't the same thing. True power comes from moving forward, not looking back. I sank into one of the chairs. I've worked so hard on this ending. Maybe it's the wrong ending, Harper suggested. Maybe there's a better one. Like what? Athena sat beside me. Like showing him, showing everyone, that your story isn't about him at all, that he's just a chapter, not the whole book. My phone lit up again. Connor, I'll be at the launch tomorrow, whether you want me there or not. Because I believe in you, even if you're not ready to believe in us. Harper read the message over my shoulder. Now that's a man worth writing about. I can't think about Connor right now. Why not? Athena asked. Because he makes you feel something other than anger? Because I'm scared. The words echoed through the empty bookstore. Because what if I let go of this anger, and there's nothing left? Harper hugged me. Oh, honey, there's so much left. Your talent, your success, your friends who love you, and maybe someone who could love you the right way if you let him. The launch is tomorrow, I said weakly. Everything's planned. Athena picked up my manuscript again. Plans can change. Endings can be rewritten. That's the beauty of being the author. You get to choose how the story ends. But the invitations, the press, will love whatever you give them, Harper said, because you're a brilliant writer who doesn't need scandal to sell books. I looked at my phone, at Connor's message, then at the manuscript pages that had consumed me for weeks. The words suddenly felt hollow, vindictive in a way that made me ashamed. I need to write something new, I said. Something true. Athena smiled. You have all night. And we have coffee, Harper added. And tomorrow, I said, opening my laptop, I'll tell a different story. As I began to type, I felt the anger that had driven me for so long begin to fade, replaced by something lighter, cleaner. Edison would still be there tomorrow, expecting one story, but getting another. And maybe that was the best revenge of all, showing him that he no longer had the power to define my narrative. My phone buzzed one more time. I picked it up and finally, after days of avoiding it, pressed call. Connor? Can you come to the bookstore? I could use your help with something. The bookstore buzzed with anticipation. Every seat was filled, with people standing along the walls and spilling into the aisles. Milo worked the room, shaking hands with industry professionals, while Harper directed latecomers to any remaining spaces. 5 minutes, Athena said, squeezing my arm. How are you feeling? I clutched my new pages, still warm from the printer. Like I might throw up. You won't. She peeked through the staff room door. Oh, Edison's here, front row, looking nervous. Good. I smoothed my dress. He should be. Thea. Connor appeared behind me, handsome in his dark suit. Ready? No. Yes. Maybe. I turned to face him. Thank you for staying up all night helping me with this. He smiled, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear. Thank you for finally answering my calls. About that, I started, but Milo stuck his head in. We're ready for you. The walk to the podium felt like miles. Edison sat exactly where Athena had said, his expression a mixture of hope and anxiety. Beside him, an empty chair, Savannah's absence speaking volumes. Good evening, I began, my voice steadier than I felt. Thank you all for coming. The crowd quieted. In the back, I spotted Connor giving me a thumbs up. Many of you have read my novel, An Unworthy Muse. You've followed Sarah's journey through betrayal and redemption. Tonight, I want to share something new. A story about what happens after revenge stops being the answer. Edison shifted in his seat. I saw confusion replace hope in his eyes. This piece is called Forward, I continued. It's about letting go, not because someone deserves forgiveness, but because we deserve peace. I began to read. The words flowed differently than the angry exposition I'd originally planned. Instead of exposing Edison's secrets, I told the story of a woman who discovered that her greatest victory wasn't in destroying her ex-husband's life, but in building her own. As I read, I watched Edison's expression change. Recognition, shame, understanding. But I kept my focus on the story, on the truth I'd finally allowed myself to tell. And in the end, I concluded, she realized that some chapters need to close quietly, without fanfare or destruction, because the best revenge isn't a spectacular ending, it's a beautiful beginning. The room erupted in applause. Through tears I hadn't realized were falling. I saw Harper beaming, Athena nodding proudly, and Connor looking at me like I'd hung the moon. Edison stood up. For a moment, I thought he might leave, but instead, he walked to the podium. Thea, he said softly, so only I could hear, I don't deserve your mercy. This isn't about what you deserve, I replied. It's about what I deserve. The money is not my problem anymore. I stepped back. Good luck, Edison. I mean that. He nodded, understanding the dismissal, and walked out of the bookstore. As the door closed behind him, I felt a weight lift that I hadn't even known I was carrying. The signing line stretched for hours. Reader after reader shared their own stories of betrayal and healing, each one reminding me why I'd chosen to change my ending. That was incredible, Milo said during a brief break. Raw, honest, powerful. The press is going to love it. More importantly, Harper added, you loved it. I could tell. Finally, as the last readers left and the staff began cleaning up, Connor approached the signing table. Do I get a signed copy too? You helped write it, I smiled. If anything, I should be asking for your autograph. I'd rather ask for dinner. He leaned against the table. Now that you're not avoiding me anymore. I wasn't avoiding you. I was processing, focusing, running scared. All of the above. He took my hand. And now, I looked around the bookstore, at the empty chairs and scattered bookmarks, at the space where Edison had sat and then left, taking our past with him. Now, I think I'm ready for that beautiful beginning I wrote about. Good, he said, pulling me to my feet, because I know this great Italian place around the corner, and I kissed him. Right there, surrounded by books and possibility, I finally let myself feel something other than anger. Something that felt a lot like hope. Or we could just do that, he whispered when we broke apart. Harper whistled from across the room. Athena slow clapped. And I laughed, really laughed, for what felt like the first time in years. Come on, I said, gathering my things. I'm starving, and I have a feeling this is going to be a long dinner. The best stories usually are, he replied, taking my hand. 2 weeks after the launch, I sat in Milo's office, watching him read the morning's paper. The headline made my stomach flip. Local author's launch takes unexpected turn, a story of redemption over revenge. They love it, Milo said, tossing the paper aside. Every major outlet is talking about your brave choice to share a message of healing instead of exposing your ex-husband. They don't know I almost did the opposite. That's what makes it authentic. He leaned forward. Speaking of authentic, have you seen this? He slid his tablet across the desk. On the screen was a social media post from Savannah. Sometimes the strongest people are the ones who choose peace over vengeance. Thank you, the author, for showing me that. Well, that's unexpected, I said. Not really. Word is she's writing her own book about toxic relationships and financial abuse. Good for her. You mean that, don't you? Milo studied my face. You've changed. Before I could respond, his assistant knocked. Sorry to interrupt, but you need to see this. She handed Milo her phone. His eyes widened. Turn on the news. Now. The office TV flickered to life, showing a breaking news report. Prominent businessman Edison Foster arrested for embezzlement and gambling fraud. Oh my God, I whispered. Sources say Foster had been stealing from his investment clients to cover massive gambling debts. His recent attempt to secure emergency funds. My phone exploded with notifications. Harper, are you watching this? Athena, call me ASAP. And Connor, coming to get you, don't watch alone. I need to go, I told Milo. Of course, but Thea? He caught my arm. The press will want your comment. Think carefully about what you say. I found Connor waiting in the lobby. Without a word, he pulled me into a hug. You okay? He asked into my hair. I don't know what I am. I pulled back to look at him. I could have exposed him at the launch. Maybe if I had. Then his victims would still be victims, just with a different story. This way, they get justice. My phone rang. Edison's lawyer. I declined the call. Let's get out of here, Connor said. Harper and Athena are waiting at your place. We found them in my apartment, pizza and wine already laid out. The news played silently on TV, showing Edison being led into a police car. I ordered your favorite, Harper said, pulling me into a hug. Extra mushrooms, no judgment. Have you heard from him? Athena asked. I shook my head. His lawyer called, but nothing. Harper interrupted. You're not involved in this. You chose to walk away, remember? Actually, Connor pulled out his phone. The DA's office called me. They want to know if you'll testify about the money he borrowed from you during your marriage. What? Why you? Because, he looked slightly embarrassed. Before I started my own company, I worked in financial crimes prosecution. They remembered me. Why didn't you tell me? It never came up. And then, after the launch, it didn't seem important. My phone buzzed again. Another news outlet requesting comment. What should I do? I asked the room. Athena took my hand. What does your heart tell you? That I'm glad I didn't expose him at the launch. That would have been about revenge. This is about justice. Then there's your answer, Connor said. Help the investigation if they need you, but don't let it consume you. You've got better things to focus on. Like your book tour, Harper added. And your new manuscript, said Athena. And maybe, Connor smiled, pulling me close, planning our first real vacation together? I looked at him in surprise. Vacation? I was thinking Italy. You mentioned wanting to set your next book there, Harper squealed. Athena raised her wine glass, and despite the chaos unfolding on the silent TV screen, I felt at peace. I'd like that, I said. A lot. Later, after Harper and Athena left, Connor and I stood on my balcony, watching the city lights. You know what's funny? I said. I spent so long plotting the perfect revenge, but in the end, you chose to be better, and karma took care of the rest. My phone lit up with one final message, from Edison. You were right, about everything. I'm sorry. I showed Connor the text, then deleted it without responding. Some chapters don't need a response to be finished. So, I said, turning to face him, tell me more about Italy. As he described the small towns and quiet beaches he wanted to show me, I realized that the best endings aren't the ones we carefully plot. They're the ones that surprise us with their perfect simplicity. The Italian sun warmed my face as I sat at the small cafe overlooking the Amalfi Coast. My laptop screen showed the final page of my new manuscript, cursor blinking after the last sentence. Still staring at it, Connor set down 2 espressos and kissed my temple. I can't decide if it's really finished. What does your gut say? Before I could answer, my phone lit up with Harper's face on a video call. Show me everything, she demanded as soon as I answered. The view, the food, the gorgeous Italian men. Wait, sorry, Connor. I turned the phone to show her the coastline. How's the book tour going? Incredible. Your readers are obsessed with the new ending. One woman drove 6 hours just to tell you how your launch speech changed her life. Speaking of changes, Connor said, should we tell her? Harper's eyes narrowed. Tell me what? I held up my left hand, showing the vintage ring Connor had given me last night, right as the sun set over Positano. Her scream made several nearby diners jump. Finally! Wait until I tell Athena. When's the wedding? Where's the wedding? Please say Italy. We haven't planned anything yet, I laughed. We're still enjoying this moment. Well, enjoy faster. I need details to live on while you're gone. After we hung up, I returned to my manuscript. Connor read over my shoulder. She realized that true power wasn't in the magnitude of her revenge, but in the depth of her healing. That's the last line, I said. Do you think it works? I think it's perfect. He sat beside me. Just like your answer last night. My phone buzzed with a news alert. Edison Foster pleads guilty, faces 10 years. Below it was a message from Milo. Your new manuscript better be as good as the last one. No pressure. Should we head back? Connor asked. Face reality? I closed my laptop. This is reality. Right here, right now. Even with everything happening back home? Especially with everything happening back home. I took his hand. Edison's story is ending. Ours is just beginning. Speaking of beginnings, he pulled out a small notebook. I may have some ideas for the wedding. What do you think about that little church we saw yesterday? My phone rang again, Savannah's name flashing on the screen. We'd spoken briefly after Edison's arrest, a surprisingly civil conversation about healing and moving forward. Take it, Connor said. I'll order more coffee. Thea, Savannah said when I answered. I wanted you to hear it from me first. I'm publishing my story. Ha, I know, Milo told me. It's not what you think. It's about redemption, about both of us finding our way after Edison. I'd like your blessing. I watched Connor at the counter, charming the barista with his terrible Italian. You have it, just be honest. That's all I want to be anymore. She paused. Thank you, Thea, for showing me there's life after betrayal. After we hung up, I opened my laptop one last time, adding a dedication page to those who taught me that the best stories aren't about getting even, but getting free, and to see who showed me that love doesn't have to hurt to be real. Connor returned with fresh coffee and cannoli. Perfect ending? Perfect everything. I closed the laptop decisively. Now, about that church. Actually, he grinned, I have another idea. What if we got married right here? Small ceremony, just our closest friends. Harper can plan it from New York. Athena can officiate. You've given this some thought. I've given you a lot of thought. He took my hand. What do you say? I looked out at the coastline, at the life we were building, at the future that looked nothing like the revenge fantasy I'd once crafted. I say yes. To all of it. My phone lit up one final time. A message from Harper to our group chat. Wedding planning starts now. No excuses about time zones. Connor laughed. Should we tell her we're thinking next week? Let's wait until she's had her coffee. I stood, pulling him up with me. Right now, I want to walk down to that little church again. As we strolled through the narrow streets, hand in hand, I thought about endings and beginnings, about revenge and redemption, about the story I'd thought I needed to tell versus the one that actually needed telling. What are you thinking about? Connor asked. About how sometimes the best plot twists are the ones we never see coming. He squeezed my hand. Like falling in love with your marketing consultant? Like finding yourself when you stop looking for revenge. I stopped, pulling him close. Like realizing your happy ending was waiting all along. The church bells rang in the distance, and I knew, finally, completely, that this was the ending I'd been meant to write all along.